Welcome to this episode of Watch the Skeet. Today's guest is someone whose name is well known across both the media and political landscapes, Juan Turner. As the founder and original voice behind Energy FM, a former member of the Legislative Council, and a long-standing advocate for Manx autonomy, Juan brings a unique viewpoint shaped by decades of experience. Join us as we discuss broadcasting, public service, and the issues that continue to shape Manx life. How are we, Juan?
Well, you're a brave man having me on.
Well, I like to get in the nitty gritty.
Well, that's what it's about, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I'm not actually allowed on my own podcast, you know. So I've had to come onto yours.
Really?
Oh yeah, Sam and Charlie have got me banned from our own.
Why is that?
I don't know. You better ask them that. But yeah, so I'm banned. So I'm really glad I'm here.
Wonderful. Well, hopefully we can give you a platform to voice what you're about to say.
Absolutely.
I am nervous, slightly.
Should be.
So how things have been going? How have you been doing? What's been busy?
Yeah, very busy. I know you want to sort of go back and talk about things, but of course, if we sort of start at what we're doing now, we launched Manx.news, the new news portal, just over a year ago.
Okay.
So that's been keeping me really busy. It's a sort of like it's not really linked to Energy FM. It's a totally separate news outlet.
Yeah.
But it obviously provides all the news to Energy FM, which is a music radio station, not a news station. So there's a bit of crossover there, so that's been keeping me busy.
Yeah, nice.
And
surviving on.
Yeah.
So let's take it back a little bit, shall we? Straight back to 2001, really, when Energy started and began. Talk me through a little bit about that process and why you thought there was an area on the Isle of Man for another radio channel, so to speak.
Yeah, well, you've got to remember, back then we didn't have any social media. There was none of that. The internet was still, people were still on dial-up modems. I doubt you boys know what a dial-up modem was.
I don't think I have a clue what it is.
Do you know what CFAX? Do you remember CFAX?
Vaguely know what CFAX is.
Anyway, it was back in that era where there was no real choice. You had on the Isle of Man, you had Manx Radio. I think Atlantic 252, the longwave station, might have gone by then, and then you had the BBC. Radio 1, which had, I can't remember even whether that was on FM in those days. It was still on medium wave, possibly. So there was a real opening to the Isle of Man to have a music radio station. And I'd been working for Manx Radio since I left school.
Ah, okay.
Did you know that?
I vaguely knew that you had a stint there, but I didn't know how in depth.
Yeah, I did. It was about 12 years there. So I literally went straight out of school and joined Manx Radio. So I was doing that, and I was badgering them, saying, "Look, we should have another station."
Yeah.
And at the time, Manx Radio were doing quite a bit with a station in Belfast called Downtown, and they broadcast across the whole of Northern Ireland. And we were doing like the Northwest 200 with them, but they had their music pop station, which is called Cool FM. And I said, we should be doing the same here. And they ummed and ahed, there's no market for it, and it will cost too much, and all the rest of it. And of course, being young, enthusiastic, and with that sort of can-do, I don't believe what these suits are telling me. This, it was a load of nonsense. I said, well, very cocky at the time, because when you're that age, you know everything, don't you?
Yes, I'm an example.
Well, yeah. So I said, well, if you won't do it, I will.
Ooh.
So I wanted to launch this radio station, and me and a mate of mine called Dave Scambler, who's now he's quite high up in the ambulance service now. Actually, he had sense. He left radio and went and got a proper job.
A proper job.
Yeah. And the pension that goes with it. So anyway, we had this sort of dream, and we meddled around. There was this I can't even remember, because you couldn't just go online and order stuff in that. You had to get catalogues and the Exchange and Mark magazine, and we got ourselves this is a bit of an admission, actually. I don't know, I'm going to incriminate myself. We managed to buy a kit for an FM transmitter. It was highly what's the word? What's another word for illegal?
Dodgy. Sketchy.
We started experimenting with this stuff, and it was from some place in Bradford, And we managed to get this kit working. And anyway, we played around with that. And then that all sort of went quiet. And I then, in the late 90s, moved over and got a job with the ITV region on the Isle of Man, which was Border Television. I don't know if anybody remembers Border Television.
My word.
So I got a job there, and at the same time, I was still freelancing for Manx Radio, but I started to set up Energy FM on the quiet. And I wrote to the Director of Communications in the Isle of Man, a chap called Brian Waddington, and said, look, I want to start a radio station. Thinking he'd write back and tell me to piss off type thing. Anyway, he wrote and said, I'm very interested. Come in and see me. So I thought, well, this is a bit of a change, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so I went in to see him, and he said, and I was very careful. I said, it's going to be a very quiet sort of thing aimed at younger audiences and all this. You don't want to set any hairs running, scare people a bit. And he said, yeah, that sounds really good. And he was really helpful. And they went away. This is like the Communications Commission, and they applied to the UK Department of Trade for an FM frequency.
Oh, right.
You won't get that now because they're completely unhelpful and obstructive. So he got this going, and to cut a long story short, the communications agency over there in the UK said, yeah, we've got some frequencies available in the Isle of Man that were never used for the BBC, and we're still on those frequencies now. Here they are. So that's how we ended up being allocated the FM channel, and we started in 2001. But in the meantime, I hadn't actually told Manx Radio that I was doing this, and they found out about it. And of course, a few of my colleagues there was Jason Quinn, there was Paul Moran, and there's a couple of others who were still at Manx Radio. I got this phone call and said, tell me about Energy FM, and I'm going, we've been busted here. Yes. So I had to come clean.
Yeah.
And they went, well, I don't think it's appropriate. It's still work in the building. Because I was renting an office from them at the time in the basement.
Oh, my goodness.
So that's how it all started, yeah.
Chaotic start, so
it was a very chaotic start. And, how we did it, I don't know. But we ended up, we couldn't use the little crappy kit thing we bought. We had to buy proper equipment.
An investment.
So, yeah. And it wasn't cheap. It was a fair few quid. So I was literally putting all of my ITV salary into funding this radio station, which I look back now and I think, was that a good idea or not?
Yeah, well, I mean, it seemed to have worked though, Juan, hasn't it?
Yeah,
I think it's worked.
Well, it's still going, isn't it? They said it wouldn't last a year.
Seriously?
Manx Radio and all that. Oh, well, it won't last. It can't possibly last. And here we are, 25 years later. With the Manx government wanting to shut us down, actually.
Seriously?
Yeah. And
why is that?
They've decided that they're going to come up with this absolute nonsense of auctioning for our own licence back.
So taking off you your current licence to sell it back to you.
Yeah, basically.
And why would they need to do that?
Well, because they're a bunch of civil servants who are mad with their empires. They're not minded to expand choice. They haven't got a clue what they're doing. Basically, if you look at what the UK are doing with radio, they're trying to expand choice. These clowns here are trying to reduce it. So, but the thing is, of course, they don't control what goes out via digital platforms like apps, tuning, online, basically.
Yeah.
So. The long-term, whether the stations will remain on FM, more and more people have got smart speakers now. They listen on their phone, they listen in the car. I mean, I was on the way down here.
Smart speaker, you mean by app?
Well, like an Alexa speaker.
Oh, okay.
The
Google
Google speakers you get, the Sonoses and all of the rest of it. So you can get anything on those now. You could listen to, radio
whatever
Timbuktu if you really wanted to. And in the car on the way down here, I was flicking between, obviously, Energy FM, but I was listening to a bit of LBC. I was just, going through. And that's all coming down your phone. So, this lot who are trying to regulate as if it's the 1990s just haven't got a clue what they're talking about.
So when you mean by regulate, so you don't actually own what you've got now?
Yeah, you've got to have a license.
So you've got a license now.
Yeah, yeah.
So
and it's bureaucratic. And
so why do they have to sell it? Why were they trying to sell it back to you?
well, that's the good question, isn't it? Nobody really knows. And more concerning for people watching this probably think it's not really relevant to them. But if a government agency can start changing the rules without a politician deciding that.
Oh.
Nobody's decided this.
Yeah.
The public haven't said there's a need for this. Nobody in Tynwald's decided it. They've just decided, and who are they?
So where's that come from? That's a good question, isn't it?
So you've got, and that could happen in any business. They could suddenly just decide that these are new rules they're going to impose on people without it going through the Parliamentary.
And that's dangerous,
process.
really.
Very dangerous. And that's why, in your opening, you said I was a big fan of Manx autonomy. Since leaving Tynwald, I'm actually becoming less enthusiastic about that. I think more autonomy is dangerous because we're going to end up with a real
my bad.
No, that used to be my thing. We should be in control.
Yeah.
You can only be in control if you've got decent people doing things for the right reasons, and we've got a lot of things going on here that aren't. But so the long-term future, I don't know how long stations will remain on FM.
Yeah.
Because so many people now are starting to listen on these apps, and none of that is regulated.
Oh, so a presenter could say pretty much what they like on there? Is that what you're trying to mean?
They could still be sued. They could be sued. You can't go and defame somebody anywhere.
Yeah.
But what it means is, like the radio station, there's rules on who can own it. There's rules on how much speech you can do. How much you can't have an advert for political organisations. You can't do this. You can't do that.
You can't add adverts for healthcare supplements and stuff like that.
And there's all sorts of rules and regulations and news and impartiality, which is fair enough because I run a news website. I don't want it to be. I need it to be varied.
Yeah.
But they can come in and start, issuing fines and all of this sort of stuff. It's typical government, bureaucracy, really.
Yeah, that's interesting because as someone who's getting into presenting this sort of podcasty vibe, you've had a bit of past experience presenting. You presented on Energy when it originally started, I believe. And how did you find that as a young person, being in that role? Did you feel pressure?
No, because back then, as I said, there wasn't the net. So to do something like you're doing here, back then, first of all, there wasn't the delivery platforms. They didn't exist. There wasn't the YouTubes and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
It was very much, people used to go home and they'd log on for a bit, where they'd log on to the internet, have a bit of surfing, and then they'd log off because it was running up their telephone bill. There was none of this. The broadband was all new. So the radio was the only way people had for a bit of entertainment, really. Yeah. And the telly. So to do, the way things are now, and to do things like this would have been, nearly impossible back then, unless you managed to get onto a broadcast platform.
But what gave you the confidence to be able to speak out on a platform with people listening?
Well, of course, you don't know who's listening. You're in the room on
exactly.
your own, aren't you?
You're sort of talking to yourself,
Well,
essentially.
you are,
aren't
yeah.
you?
And probably, I know I think actually some of the shows I did on Manx Radio, I probably was talking to myself. You used to wonder, is anybody listening to this stuff?
Yeah.
But yeah, there was always a joke at Manx Radio. After me, I used to play all this pop music and stuff. Then after me, there were these specialist shows that used to go out with various sort of specialist music. And we always used to joke and say it would be cheaper to send the listener a tape of the show rather than have everything broadcast in it.
Right.
But, yeah.
And is it difficult when you're on the radio? I only recognise this from going on and seeing Will with the Southern Show, and it's quite an isolated space, actually. I'd never experienced anything like that, in the sense of you are essentially talking to the people but not getting any feedback back, aren't you? Yeah. That must be quite strange. How do you do you picture in your head that, everyone's listening, so I picture there's someone else on the other side of the table?
They always used to say in radio, you're not talking to the masses, you just you talk, you deliver your show talking to you're talking to one person. That's what they always used to say. Just think you're talking to one person, and then you're more natural. Yeah, rather than sort of addressing the nation type of thing, like sort of
addressing the nation.
Because that's what they used to call themselves, didn't they? But yeah, I don't think it is. I think but what I've noticed is there's no, and we've had recruitment problems at Energy. When I was getting into it, there was like loads of people wanting to do it, and now, I mean, we're looking for somebody to do like our Saturday afternoon sports program, and trying to find people to do it. There's just not that appetite for radio, and I think eventually entertainment is going to be. It's already taken off. Things like what you're doing now, and people are consuming media in a different way.
Do you think it's a more positive way?
No, I think social media has been a marvellous platform for certain things, but at the same time, look at the problems it's brought. You know, when we've got youngsters at school now who are suffering really badly from the abuse that's going on.
Yeah.
So it's almost like society has got this really great thing. The web is a fantastic thing. You know, you can go now and pay stuff with your phone. I mean, that was James Bond stuff years ago.
It's bananas, really.
You know, and look at your watch. You can see people on it and all. You know, and
crazy.
That was just like ludicrous, far-fetched nonsense. But here it is now happening. So I think, you know, it has got real benefits, but along with it, we've actually got a very sinister thing. You know, people getting hacked now, and you know, Marks and Spencers were brought down, weren't they, a few weeks ago? Do
you think there's the same narrative? Sorry to interrupt there, actually.
No, that's all right.
Do you think because sometimes radio channels could form a narrative through what they're producing, and put out a certain message at that point, because there was no other places other than the telly. There wasn't anywhere else you could find your information other than the newspapers, the radio, or the telly, essentially. Realistically, 20 years ago, I'd imagine, was it?
Yeah, I mean, that's the double-edged sword of regulation,
isn't it? Now it's more broad, isn't it? And people can go different places to find their information rather than relying on those three sources. Do you think that side of it must be positive, surely, that it's more information and people can make a decision off a broader amount?
They can, but what worries me is, I mean, I sort of lived through the time of when there was... Originally, there was only 3 TV channels, and then we got. I remember much excitement. We got Channel 4. Now, as you say, you've got all this media. The media was, to a certain extent, trusted. You know, you had the BBC News. I remember coming home from school, watching the reports on the Falkland Islands. We had the Iraq War, and all these other things, and it was a trusted medium. Now you've got the web and all these other outlets. Part of me says, there's a lot of truth coming out, but there's also a lot of fake lies. You know, we've even got people now with AI. I mean, I always used to think, you know, you can spot what's fake, but actually you're looking at this stuff and you're thinking, Christ, that's realistic. and then you've got people now sort of the conspiracy theorists saying things like 9/11 never happened. Well, you know, I watched that happen on live TV.
Yeah.
And to be here now, you know, 24 years later, and people genuinely believe it never happened. And I'm thinking, what planet are they on? Because they've read something on the net. And it worries me that in 100 years' time, people look back at history. Are they going to know what actually happened or what didn't happen? You know, we know about, you know, the Vikings landed in the Isle of Man because we've dug up all the treasures. Yeah. They've researched it, and we've got
That's a nice good point. I never thought of that.
And we've got documentation of what happened in the atrocities of the world wars. But now we've come into this AI modern era where literally anybody can have a platform on the net. You know, in even 50 years' time, what is real and what isn't real? Because if people are now saying stuff like 9/11, I mean, I don't want to get into the whole, you know, did they land on the moon?
Yeah.
We're not going down that route. But the point I'm saying is that I was there in Ramsey actually. We were filming that day, and we were on a break, and I got a phone call saying from someone at work saying, "Go in and watch. Put the telly on. And we put the BBC on, and there's the live pictures from New York, you know. Yeah. And to have that people saying it, and they believe it. And these are people who weren't born, but they believe it didn't happen.
Yeah,
it was all
that's
fake.
a problem.
And it's probably because they're used to seeing AI. There's not a chance that was AI back in 2001.
No.
You know, I mean, in 2001, I was working for Border Television, and the only way we could get our news on the telly that night was for me to actually take the tape to Ronaldsway Airport. I used to hand it to a guy on the desk who'd give it to the pilot, who'd put it in his pocket.
Yeah.
Fly it over to Liverpool or Blackpool, and we'd send a car down from the TV centre to pick it up in the hope it would get up the M6 to get on the news that night.
That's crazy.
So for people to go on about all that was contrived and fake, absolute nonsense. And that's what you're up against, isn't it?
And I think the younger generation now, they don't, like you say, they don't know what is real. And it's I mean, I've sort of been brought up in it, but people more like Herb's age, 14,
how old's Herb, if you don't
15.
mind me? 15. Blimey.
Yeah, so he's coming straight up through school. He's seeing the whole, change in how schools are ran and the problems around that areas, which I don't think we should get into, but maybe later. It's a strange world we live in at the moment. I don't think anyone really knows where it's going, and there's a lot of scared people. I mean, the Isle of Man, the Manx people are scared on information about what's going on around the government and how transparent they're being with actually what's going on. And I think that leads me quite nicely into how you edged over from radio into politics, really, Drew. And I'd like to start picking your brain a little bit down that road, because you've had quite an interesting 20-odd years, in my opinion.
Yeah, it has. We've all got 20/20 vision, in hindsight, haven't we? And it's like, would I do some of those things again? You go back and you do some things a bit differently. But yeah, I think I was quite privileged to have served in Tynwald at the end of the era of the great politicians. Now, I didn't politically align with them, but if you take my good friend, the late Eddie Lowy, he was a staunch Labour man, right? And he used to call me, Maggie Thatcher's love child, because I was obviously the Conservative, and he used to say, here's Thatcher Junior coming in.
Yeah,
we used to get on brilliantly, and there was a lot of consensus because he was a real statesman. So even though politically we clashed on a lot of things, there wasn't the nastiness you get these days. You see it on social media where people become so polarised, it gets very, very nasty. You can see this with a lot of the protests that are going on across Britain at the moment, where people are being labelled. There's the usual bingo of labels. But back then when I joined, there was a lot of very, very sort of like Noel Kringle was the president. We had ministers like John Shimon, Alan Bell, and all of those sort of people. And there were people you could have very good debates with, and it was very, very orderly, and it didn't have this sort of toxicity.
Yeah.
And that was the difference. And I had the first 5 years was in that era, and sadly it's gone now, and it's degenerated into almost like the sort of the Facebook Parliament.
It's strange that, because certainly something I've learned over the last year or two as I've gotten older is you're allowed to have a different opinion than someone else, but it doesn't mean that you have to dislike them just because they think something different to you. And that is sort of being open-minded and being willing to listen in case there's something there to learn. And do you think that's a bit more the way the Parliament used to be?
Yeah,
sort of thing?
Yeah. I mean, absolutely.
Like willing to hear your opinion.
We never ever used to hear of people being cancelled, and now if you go on and say something, there's a sort of quite a vicious movement of quite far left people who, if you don't agree with them, they will do everything to destroy and cancel you. That's very dangerous, and that's why in America you've seen the rise of the likes of Donald Trump, because people have just had enough of this sort of hogwash of normal working people being trodden on for this sort of liberal champagne sipping champagne socialists.
Yeah.
And if you don't agree with them, you get cancelled.
That's a problem.
And it's a big problem, and that unfortunately has come in with the rise of sort of social media access.
Yeah, it's
I'm
all
a big advocate
together,
of free speech, but what's happened is it's gone so far the other way now that people, I mean, you get people now. Look at when GB News launched. You had a very vicious campaign where people were targeting the advertisers to try and have them shut down before they were even on the air. So nobody even knew what they were going to broadcast. Yeah. But the group of people decided they'd cancel them straight away. And I think that's very dangerous in a society, because that, it's almost like, they're the ones calling everyone a fascist, but those sort of views are actually the dangerous ones.
It's gone that far left that now it seems like a big jump to go back to where we were, but actually we're not. Maybe we're not going any further back than we already were. We just seems like a big leap.
But I take it back to what I said about Eddie Lowy. He was a big Labour man. I was a big Conservative. Fantastic debates we used to have, and a cup of tea in the room, and we'd actually go to the pub afterwards. There was no nastiness. It was good, vigorous, quite ruthless at times debate. And then there'd be a vote taken on whatever the subject was. And then, if it didn't go your way, well, we were on to the next thing. It doesn't happen these days. Things get really, really vicious. And that's where I wonder why people are frightened, because society things are boiling up. Yeah. And they shouldn't be boiling up, because
I agree.
We've got great technology, we've got great advances in medicine. All these things that, as I said to you earlier on, we only had 4 TV channels when I was growing up. Yeah. Now we've got, broadband and all of this. We should be having the time of our lives, and yet society's got very, very toxic.
Were you young to be in Parliament? And do you want to ask, if I ask how old you were when you were back in the I don't know. I don't know you personally.
Remember, to be honest. Juan Watterson was younger than me. I was older than him, but I was the youngest ever MLC.
Yeah, I thought that was good. You would have been, 30 odd then?
Something like that, yeah, 30.
Why do you think young people on the Isle of Man aren't getting involved in politics?
Having been there, done that, got the T-shirt,
that's right. I'm asking
and
you.
had several headaches. I think it's a great idea. They don't get involved. Should stay as far away from it as possible. No, that's a flippant remark, because what we need is we do need more engagement. But the problem is, it was so toxic in the latter years. And I can see it now. I despair when I occasionally tune into some of the Tynwald debates, and I can see the backstabbing that's going on, and it's because of our parliamentary system. And I actually...
here we go.
Oh, yeah, here we go. I actually...
Right, where are we going?
Well, people have said to me, again, the cancel culture, you're always complaining about the Isle of Man. Why don't you leave? And I say, no, I'm not complaining about the Isle of Man. I love the Isle of Man. Born here, family here. I love everything about it, but I hate the way it's run. That's the difference. And the way it's run is we think, and we're almost gaslit into believing we have this fantastic parliamentary system. It's 1,000 years. We go to Tynwald Hill, we put the flag up and all the rest of it. We sing the national anthem. Alistair Ramsey hit the nail on the head with an article he did. Now, have you ever voted?
No.
Why not?
Probably.
I'm interviewing you now.
Yeah. I know, that's okay. I like someone who asks me the odd question.
Why not? I'm interested to know.
I think I would vote now. I left for a year, came back. To be fair, when was the last election?
When was it? What year is it now?
2025 now.
Right, 2021.
So I would have just been 18 then.
Right.
And I think at that point in my life, I don't think I was aware, and I sort of had the decision in my head that what's my vote going to do? What's my one singular vote going to have an effect on how it comes out? Now, as I've gotten older, I think that's began to change, especially because I've been exposed to a lot of people who are on here like us talking about you can make a difference if enough people go together. And young people on the Isle of Man, I think, are starting to do that. But the reason why I wouldn't have voted them was because I don't think my one singular vote would have mattered. Now, however, I believe that if everyone has that attitude, nothing's ever going to change.
You're right. However, our system doesn't allow that to happen, and this is what Alistair Ramsey was
picking to that.
Now, the reason is we haven't got party politics.
Oh,
now it's
God.
not. It's not that. Yeah, you say.
Here we
God,
go. Let's know. I'm learning. I heard the other side of the story the other week.
There's nothing to stop party politics. There's no law against it here. It's just we're not conditioned to deal with it. Take the last election in the UK. Right, this is heavy stuff. Are you wanting to talk about this?
Yeah, no, I'm interested in talking.
Really heavy stuff. I mean, hopefully people haven't switched off. In the UK, the Conservatives, they had the COVID thing. Boris won them the biggest election victory they'd had since Maggie Thatcher. And then COVID came and it all turned to hell in a handcart. And the party stabbed Boris in the back. Now, I know we went on about all this Partygate and all of that nonsense, but the fact was that this was the leader that won you the biggest victory going, that the public bought into this guy. They didn't buy into the Tory party, they bought into Boris. Whether you like him or not, he was a great mayor of London. They bought into Boris, and the same has happened with Trump. Then they got rid of Boris, and then they started reneging on all the things they were going to do. So they became anything but conservative. Conservatism was all about, we want you to own your own home. We want your business to do well, because if your business does well, you employ more people, more money goes into the economy, everybody does well, taxation can go up because people are earning, paying taxes. Anyway, they stabbed him in the back. They saw the mass immigration not being tackled with the boats arriving. They did nothing about that. And it got to the stage where it was like they'd broken every promise going. So Labour got in, and I still maintain to this day, Labour didn't win that election. The Tories lost it.
Yeah.
People were so hacked off with them, they shot them. They'd rather shoot their own feet off and put the other lot in than have another term of that lot.
Okay, so how's this linked to the Isle of Man politics?
I'll tell you why. When you go to the ballot box in the UK, you've got your different parties, and that one stands for that. That one is like Labour's more sort of socialist and high taxes, public service. So you can decide, right, what sort of government do I want? Do I want, the raving loony party? Do I want the Conservatives with, we want people to own homes and jobs and blah, 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 low taxation? Or do we want this socialist government? Or do you want So you can decide. And because they all get elected on the party whip, when they go in there, they have to follow the party line. So they will vote with their party on all those things. Yeah. In the Isle of Man, we vote for 24 individuals, all with their own ideas. They all get in. We don't know who a chief minister's going to be. The chief minister gets elected from who we put in. Might be somebody we don't like. And they then pick the ministers, who are all separate again, who all have their own ideas. So what happens is they all just do what the civil servants put in front of them, because there's no party to say, no, we don't want that. Look at the sewerage tax. Now, you might not remember that coming in. That wasn't in anybody's manifesto. If somebody put in the manifesto, we're going to bring in a sewerage tax, you're going to have to pay it, you go, well, I'm not voting for them. We'll vote for this one. This came out of nowhere. Tynwald all voted for it because they're all in the little departments and they all get the extra pay. So we can't actually vote for a government. We're voting a load of independents in that then make up their own minds depending on what the flavour of the day. Who voted for this crackpot wind farm up here on the hill?
That's a bit crazy.
Where was that?
Yeah, that wasn't anywhere, was it?
That wasn't anywhere. Who voted for this health levy where we're going to get another 2% on our income tax. I don't remember seeing that in any manifesto. That's popped up out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Who voted for this tourism tax they're on about?
See, this is the thing,
These
though,
things
June.
all come out of somewhere.
This is the thing, and you might say this is heavy stuff, but a lot of people don't actually realise what's going on.
No, but they're going to be paying for it.
Exactly. So you might say this is heavy stuff, and it's not what this. But I think people should actually be educated from members of the public who know a little bit about what's going on, whether that's the right opinion or the wrong opinion. It doesn't really matter in the sense of who's putting the message across, as long as there's a place where people can hear it. And that's what I think that's what I believe in. People need to have a place where they can listen to every side of the story, so they can build their knowledge up to choose what they actually want. Do you not agree?
Yeah, absolutely. But one thing that makes my toes curl. I'm trying to be.
Boils your piss.
Well, I was going. Yeah, can I say balls my piss?
Yeah, of course you can.
Yeah, balls my piss. Is when I hear people say, "Oh, why have we got so many MHKs? It's ridiculous for an island of 80,000 people. We should have less." And I go, "Whoa, hang on,
whoa, Nelly."
I said, "We should have more." "What do you mean? It's ridiculous." I said, "Well, I'll tell you why we should have more. The Isle of Man, because it wants to run itself and not be part of England, which is another debate I've got. You know, we were bought by England in the 1700s. Technically, we should be part of them, and they should be funding us. But that's another story.
That's deeper than what I think I'm willing to get today,
Well,
June. We could have another one in the future.
Oh, yeah.
I'd love a debate
I could tell
on
you all
here.
about that. We could have like an offshoot.
I'd love a debate.
So, why do I think we should have more, not less? We elect the MHKs. Whether they do a good enough job or not is debatable, but we elect them. Are we seriously suggesting we should have less elected people, which is going to put more power in the hands of the unelected civil servants? With more with the MHKs, you've got checks and balances. That, yes, they might not be checking and balancing enough, but that's not the point. We can sack them at the next election, and then we get another lot in that we moan about. But
yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but we can. Now, if you get rid of them, you're creating less MHKs that are going to have far more power. So you haven't then got enough people to be the opposition, to challenge, that get together and go, well, you know, we're going to build a wind farm. It's going to be 40 million quid, might be more.
Yeah.
Who cares? Because it's only public money. If you're going to reduce those numbers of people that we elect, that's even less people going, hang on a minute.
Yeah.
What are you building that for? Dangerous. The other thing you've got to remember is these 24 are making law that can put you in prison. Okay?
Yeah.
They're making law that can ruin your business. They're making law that can... The law has the same force as the law in Lancashire.
Yeah.
Now, they've got 1,400 members of Parliament.
We've got 20.
We've got 24.
Yeah.
With no disrespect to their careers, but shopkeepers, postmen...
So what do you think people should get educated before they go in there?
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that 24 people from the community cannot have the oversight to make law that has such a wide-ranging effect on people. That law can ruin people's lives.
And have you ever seen anything like that?
Yeah,
When you were in there, talk me through a little bit about. We probably went down a bit of a rabbit hole there. Well, that's all right. I can go down a rabbit hole terribly. When you were in there, what did you sort of learn from that experience, personally?
I think it was again because I was with a lot of the old guard, the Eddie Lowies, the Noel Kringles. They were very astute, and Claire Christian, the former president of Tynwald, Claire Christian, not the one that's there now. They were very, very astute people and very levelled. But they came from before the social media era. So things were looked at a lot deeper. Now, during the end of my time there, we were starting to see things getting rushed through. I think, and I could have this wrong, but I'll say it was the toilet tax. I think it was the sewerage tax that was rushed through in one day. law being made in one day. That is despicable. We don't deserve to have a parliament if we're rushing through laws in one day.
One day?
Yeah, I'm sure it went through the House of Keys, came upstairs to the Legislative Council, was bang, 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 signed off, and then went up to Government House for royal assent in one day. And that happened more than once. I always used to object to it because I said, this is not a way to make law. This is the sort of dangerous nonsense we've got when the one party, the civil service, needs something. Oh, we've got to have this. We've got to do this because of our international obligations. Law shouldn't be made in one day. This is dangerous.
But is there many people who think like that, June?
Well,
like how many people are aware of this, in your opinion? Like,
I don't know.
We all have our own opinions, but you're quite vocal on social media yourself about what's going on.
Yeah, it worries me.
And is that a personal worry, or do you do it? Do you comment to make people aware, or do you comment to fuel a fire of some form?
I do a bit of that, yeah. But generally, I'll put stuff on that I actually believe. But if you take the lawmaking thing, I'm going to really put the shit up people now with what I'm going to suggest. You know, I said about making law. This law, I mean, it affects everybody watching this podcast. And I know you've got a huge following from the farming community. And look at the problems that farming's having on the Isle of Man.
6%. That new 6%.
Well, there is on that, but even things like the regulation that you've got to put up with and all the rest of it. Now, these rules are all made by people. And, of course, what's coming down the road as well is you're all going to be hammered over this carbon business as well. That's going to be another thing to batter you with. So, you know, people need to be careful what they wish for. My view is we should now, people are going to say, well, he would say that, he's not in it anymore. Maybe abolish the Legislative Council completely.
Okay.
And say, right, if we're going to have the 24 members of the House of Keys making the law, it then used to go to the Legislative Council for them to check it all. My view is, because of the lack of oversight, I think every law the House of Keys pass should go to the House of Lords in Westminster and have them look at it.
But it's not their island, you.
Well, it is their island.
But they don't know what goes on here. Well, that would be like asking a crocodile to man a fish tank.
That's better, in my view, because when you're revising law, you need to look at it with fresh eyes, because what their job is to look at the piece of legislation and to see how it works. And does it work? Is it contradicting other things that are going on? And they debate the effects and the causes of each of it. Now, they're doing that for law in the UK. We would end up with far better law. Now, I know somebody who's actually lost...
This is a rabbit hole. This
is
a rabbit hole, Jude.
It's important. You do know that in the Isle of Man, I could steal your land using a law which the Isle of Man made a shambles of, because it's not the same as the English law. It's written slightly differently.
69? No.
It's to do with adverse possession.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. And we could go back. I could go back to, the days of, I could say, well, when Vicky the Viking had this piece of land in 15, there wasn't proven use of it. And it's happened. I've seen it happen. There's cases, and there's been committees of Tynwald have looked at it and gone, yeah, this law's a shit show. And people have lost land through this because our law's defective.
Yeah, but
this is why it needs looking at. Don't forget, the House of Lords only revised law. They don't make it. The House of Keys would still do that. They'd still decide on the policy and what we want to do, but they're making sure it's technically correct and does what it's meant to do. That way, we would have far better law for people, because, as I said, a shit piece of law could put you in prison.
Yeah.
Could ruin your life.
So that links back to me voting. I should really think, and young people should think harder about voting on the Isle of Man. And with the upcoming elections next year, that's why I want to talk. That's why I want to talk about this sort of thing, really, because I'd like to try and fuel a few young people on the Isle of Man to do their homework and try and get up and vote, because you can make a change. The system might not be poor. Right. So who would change that then? Who would have the authority? We can sit here and talk about how we'd like it to be.
I don't think you can. The way it is.
So is that you saying, well, we're buggered?
Well, I think we are at the moment. Yeah. Yeah, we are. Yeah, because
That's a bold statement.
If
That is a bold statement.
If
that,
you and I will draw people's attention to Alistair Ramsey's piece. It is on Manx.news' website because we published it, and it goes back to this whole thing about when we're electing somebody for the next 5 years to run our island. We're not electing anybody to run the island because the chief minister. We've got no say in that.
You think the public should then have a second vote for the chief minister?
Well, again, but
Is
then
that what you're
then
suggesting?
they're talking. They say, well, if you do that, you then get into the stage where you're losing the way the Tynwald system is, and you're ending up with like a powerful person who could be a dictator. Well, I don't really accept that because that's the person we've elected in. If he says he's going to do A, B, C, D, E, and we go, yeah, we like that, we're going to elect him, and then he does A, B, C, D, E, we go, well, that's what we've elected him for. But you've then got all these Tynwald members that are all independents. So they can just vote down everything he says because they don't agree with it. So who does he then work with?
That's
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so it's a shambles.
But this is the thing, Nugent. Not many people. It's crazy how small amount of the Manx public actually understand how the Parliament works. Like, I've never been taught how our Parliament works, and certainly as a young person, should we not be educated on how the Isle of Man government runs? Like, I personally think that to vote you need to know, and should that really be down to just your individual interest?
Well, take the last election when I went and voted for my MHK. In the manifesto, it was just a load of ideas. Has that person achieved any of it? No. Why not? Because you can't.
Yeah, it doesn't allow you to.
It doesn't allow you to.
Because it's groupthink almost.
But if you're electing a party, and I'm not saying, a party, at least you know what you're going to get. You know, if you elect the party, you're going to get that. That's their policies, and they can enact those because they've got the numbers in the Parliament to vote the things through. But when you've got a load of individuals, that's why we've got things like all these harebrained Skeet. I mean, who voted for that Liverpool landing stage, which is going to be 90 million quid? That, again, the public had no say in that. They didn't ask for it. They didn't want it. They didn't have any say. It was not published in a manifesto that if I get elected, I'm going to blow 90 million quid of your cash on a tin shed on the docks in Liverpool.
Okay.
That's the problem we've got. Our system is never going to change. The civil service run the show. Okay,
so then let's talk. Like, we can talk here about the negatives all day, but what positives do you think are looking at the Isle of Man? What positives do you think we've got?
Well, it's difficult to say, isn't it? I mean,
well, you live here, so you must like some.
The Isle of Man's a beautiful place. I mean, the weather, obviously, typical British Isles weather,
hit and miss.
And I just think the biggest problem is Tynwald members.
Positives here, Drew.
Yeah, Tynwald members are so disconnected from the people. And it's only when you come out of Tynwald you realise how out of touch they are. We now own the ferry company. But why isn't it being used for the economy? We were talking about road haulage equivalency for farming and things. Nothing's been done. We've got the dearest air passenger duty in the world. So, that's why EasyJet have buggered off on most of their routes. We're just constantly self-harming. Everything we do. We've over-regulated the finance industry to death.
But we need some positives here, June. We need some positives.
How do you do it? Because if we...
But there must be something you like.
Vote them all out. Yeah, I like the island. But unfortunately, the way it's run, how are we going to do it? If you change them all, you've then got another group of 24 people in that... again, we'll have the same problem.
See, now this might scare people, though, saying that, like, highlighting this is a real issue.
Well, if it scares people, tough. They need to know, and that's where they do need to go and vote, and they need to put the foot down with the people who come on knocking on the door, and say, "What are you going to do about it?" But again, you get in, you're one voice, and I mean, you take my MHK, Stuart Peters. They sneer at him and they laugh at him because he's objected to things. and he's not able to achieve anything.
But what positives? You must have some positives, Ewan. It can't all be. It's not the whole island isn't a complete shambles. Like we have to be semi-positive.
Where's our success stories at the moment?
I'd say the community is half decent on the Isle of Man. I think we do have quite a community here. Like Southern Shows just passed, and that was a tremendous community event.
Yeah, but that's not because the government
ran.
Is it?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not.
That's a success because the government aren't running it. No, I'm being serious.
Yeah.
Everything they've got involved with, they've made a Horlicks off. We've got some really good entrepreneurs on the Isle of Man, and they're constantly over-regulated, out of existence. We've seen the e-gaming industry leaving because of regulation. Something's going to burst here. And the pension deficit, because they've expanded the size of the thing. You say about the positives are, you talk about the people, but all of those people are being shafted all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether I agree or disagree. I can only play devil's advocate in this situation because, I mean...
Okay, give me an example.
Give you an example of positive of the government.
I
genuinely do struggle to see a positive myself, but I think we cannot speak purely negative about everything. There has to be, and from someone who's been in there has to be some form of positivity around that area.
Okay.
Sure.
Well, let's talk about a great success story.
Okay, go ahead.
That they launched Manx Care.
Yeah.
No, that's not a success story, is it? It's just cost them millions more when I said, don't set up all these arm's length organisations because arm's length is an excuse for unaccountable.
Yeah.
They've set Manx Care up. It's been a disaster.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Like,
you call me the miserable old cynic.
Hang on a minute.
Why don't you tell me what's really positive? The community are, and the people are.
I think the people are,
the business owners
and
are.
I'm more talking about the Isle of Man in general. Like we can talk about the government, and I think it's a really good topic. Don't get me wrong; it's definitely needed to be heard. And I'm not calling you a miserable old sod.
No, I am. I'm saying that
but we have to. You need positivity for people to also want to change. Like we have to see where the positives are. Otherwise, for me anyway, I don't know the direction of where we want to go. Do we want to go in that direction more than this direction? And I don't think that's clear at the moment, is it? And you sort of stumped me there when you asked me.
Yeah.
Well,
okay. That's what I'm saying.
But that's okay.
If I'm the old cynic, then I'm interested to know what your view is
from a young person's perspective.
What is? I mean, you've got of course, the vibrant nightlife of Douglas.
Yeah, I mean, man, like when you look at it like that,
the street's dead.
The Outback's not though. Yeah. When was the last time you were in there, June?
It wasn't that long ago. But, I tend to. I'm sort of.
I think you've sort of got me there.
Like, I have got you. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But I'm not scared to be got.
Difficult.
It's very difficult
to explain, and this is why people do get annoyed with me. They go, "Why don't you just leave?" Oh, I say, "Hang on, no, I'm not going to leave. We want to make it better, and the only way you're going to make it better is if we stop this massive expansion of bureaucracy. Look at right. We've been running the radio station 25 years, and here we go. A load of snivelling civil servants get in, change the rules, and are basically shutting ourselves down next in 2027.
So would you say you're pissed off at the government?
Yeah, completely. I always was told when I was sort of your age, you've got to get on the property ladder. You've got to get yourself a house. And I did. So I buy a house and I move in. And when I moved in, the rates were this amount and they're such and such and such and such and such and such. So you go along in life. And then some civil servant then decides we're going to have a sewerage tax. So I, as the homeowner, get hit with a £50 charge. Now, I never voted for that. I never agreed to it. I've got to pay that charge. And then they decided that the £50 charge wasn't fair because, the little old lady across the road's paying 50 quid, but the family of 4 or 5 is also paying 50 quid. So that's not fair. So these idiots in government decided, I'll tell you what we'll do to make it fair. Everybody can pay more.
But you can't call them idiot. You can't call them all purely idiots.
Oh, they are.
But they're not individually. you can't like they're not attacking individuals here. Let's be real.
No, they're not. They're far from it. They're calculated, and what it's about protecting their empires. So the answer to the unfair 50 quid was everybody could pay more because that's going to be fair.
Yeah.
So they made it 100 quid. But then they decided, well, that's still not fair. So what we're going to do is we're going to put it on the rates, the rateable value of your house. And I thought, well, how's that fair? Because the little old lady, if you take like my road, bought her bungalow when it was probably like 20 grand to buy the bungalow. Over the years, that's gone up and is now worth, 300 grand. She must be wealthy. No, she's not. But she's now paying her sewerage charge based on the rates. You're saddled with that.
Bananas.
Right. So what I'm saying is that they send you down this road of what you must do, and then they move the goalposts on you. So like my rates started off at whatever it was, 700 quid. They're now like over 2,000 quid.
Is that not? That's development in a way as well, though. Is it?
Less services for that.
Yeah.
Less services.
But this is a nice sort of way to start.
But do you know what's happened?
Go on then.
Do you know why it's gone up?
Why has it gone up?
Because the numbers employed in government have gone like that. Well, how about instead of charging me more, you reduce like if you're running a business and your costs are going up, you've got to cut your cloth accordingly.
Yeah.
You've got to, otherwise you go bust.
Yeah.
You can't just hike your prices up because you'll have no customers. They, of course, can just bring in the new law, like the sewerage law, which was all done in a day because we need more money. So I'll tell you what, we'll pass a law, and then everybody can pay more. Now, if I don't pay that and say, no, hang on, I didn't agree with that, they then immediately fast-track you to court. You say, I don't want to pay that. Oh, well, we've made it a law. You've got to pay that. And then, of course, what happens is they take your house off you. It's
that's a strange, and this is it, June. Like people, I've never heard it put like that. I don't think in how you've explained that over the last 20 odd minutes. I think that's quite alarming.
It is alarming.
Put it being put like that from someone who's been in that situation.
Yeah.
From someone who's been in the Legislative Council, and you've got a business or two on the side. You've got your energy and you've got your Manx.net.
Manx.news.
Manx.news.
Yeah.
How can hopefully we, over the next few years and with the elections come up, hopefully people do make a change, because it's a nice way to start wrapping up there, because we've spoke very in-depthly about what's actually
bored people to death.
Well, but the right type of people will hear it, hopefully.
It's serious.
It's serious stuff, and don't get me wrong, like you said there, you might have stumped me, but I think that young people have to learn, and I don't think there's any other way of learning other than listening to different views. You've got your view, and other people have got their view, and that's okay.
But you've got to remember, everything has to be paid for.
Mm-hmm.
And the only money there is, and I'll use a Margaret Thatcher quote here, there's no such thing as government money. There's your money.
Yeah.
It's taxpayers' money. Public money.
Yeah.
And everything needs paying for. And we've seen the government expand like nobody's business. There's hundreds and hundreds of nothing jobs in there. Paper shufflers, pen pushers. I would fire anybody that's got the name policy in their title. Get rid of all these jobs. What they did is...
And then you've got a load of unemployed people.
But, that's the problem they've created.
You've then got loads of unemployment.
Well, you have, but they've also brought in... There's a lot of people in like professional jobs. But where's that going to end? Because if you've got a big public sector and a dying private sector, the money's going to run out, and then you've got serious problems. I'm at the stage now, and I have said this flippantly, I think the only thing that is going to stop the thing from running away with itself is if we do actually run out of money. Because then what happens is the United Kingdom has to step in, and they'll cut the cloth for us and say, having this number of people working in the public sector for a population this size, I'm talking about public sector now, not elected people, is unsustainable. And what they did is they went through a whole phase of getting rid of all the good, what I call the good workers. They got rid of all the guys and girls working on the roads, cleaning the ditches, doing the hedges.
Look at all the cushions in the blooming hedges.
They got rid of all those people who were doing real jobs, but they've got thousands of them in offices across government departments working on strategies and policies and reports and all the rest of it. I mean, what are these people all doing?
Yeah, I don't.
And this is the problem.
That's the question, though, isn't it?
The management is just like Manx Care. The management, we've got loads of management, but not enough nurses. And the problem is, when I slag off the public sector, I'm not slagging off like the guys and girls who are on the front line. We've got teachers, we've got the road workers, we've got the
nurses.
The likes of the nurses, the lines men and women on the Manx Electricity Authority. They're all people doing jobs we need to make the place function, and then you've got all these others who are just there making up rules and regulations, and it's not sustainable. Yeah. And this is the problem we've got. How are we going to...
It's a great question.
The train's running away.
That's the question of this podcast, I think, is where is the future looking?
Well, look, they were even going to shut down... They were even talking about shutting down the Manx Electric Railway at one point because it costs a load of money. They were going to stop it at Laxey. There was a suggestion, it was about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And that was just, well, hang on. If you start taking these bits up, these things do cost money.
Yeah, but the heritage...
Yeah. But if you start getting rid of our offering because we're short of cash, what they need to do is they need to get rid of all these nothing jobs.
Yeah.
And say, if we got rid of that job, what would happen? Well, if you get rid of the man or woman filling the hot potholes, the roads turn to shit. If you get rid of the nurses, people start, not being cared for. But those are the jobs that they've ended up cutting over the years.
Yeah, but why do people then... just to start wrapping this up now, people get intimidated by views and opinions of what goes on social media and what goes on. And, you do like a comment, which is absolutely within your right, but why do people see that as dangerous rather than not just a diverse of opinion? Because now we have to be careful. Like, you do have to be careful to a degree, but why do you think people... aren't, just to sort of end this now, why do you think people aren't open-minded to see that?
It's a difficult... I think we've had many years of lots of money sloshing around, and that's the problem. We're now getting to the stage where it's not sloshing around. The pension problem the government's got is just keeps getting kicked in the long grass because there's an election, and some of them will think, well, I won't be here then, I'll have retired, or I'll lose my seat, or whatever. It'll be the next Parliament's problem. There's all of that. There will be people watching this who'll go, well, he was in there. Why didn't he do anything about it? But I've already explained that. You can't. You're one voice. And if people go back and actually look at my voting record and what I spoke out about, you'll see that I was always opposing all these extra taxes, not because it's easy to do, but because what I was saying is we need to cut our cloth from within. Stop hammering the public. So you can stand up in Tynwald and say that. You can hit the red button to vote no, which I did. So you can't do anything. But, you're only one voice.
Maybe then looking into the future, I am looking, coming up to these time of election, maybe, like you say, a debate and a bit of a cross of opinions and discussion, a positive discussion, like you said, you enjoyed from back in the day.
Yeah.
Could be positive because that would be a positive in my opinion, as long as everyone was open-minded.
Well, a funny one actually, and I was sort of, I offered myself up as the Elon Musk. I said I'll go in as a Department of Government Efficiency, and I said I could save you millions because I know which jobs can go. Yeah. And it certainly wouldn't be people on the front line, but anybody who's a paper shuffler creating documents.
There might be paper shufflers who listen to this who think they've got a tremendously valuable job.
Yeah, but if they were to go tomorrow, would our services fall to bit? I'm sorry, but it's not affordable. It's not sustainable. Yeah. And the only way it's going to happen is the public are going to get hammered more and more. That's why you've got these health levies mooted, tourism levies. They've upset the hoteliers this week. We could go on and on.
Yeah, we could go on and on,
but that's where I think we're going. We're going to end up pushing the can so far down the road, and we're going to penalise and hammer people. We've got the fantastically expensive cost of living here. It's outrageous when you look at the costs.
Mm-hmm.
We could be absolutely booming here if we got rid of that airport passenger duty, like they got in the Channel Islands. If we sorted the steam packet out and said, we've bought that company for the good of the nation.
Right.
So we're going to stop running it at a big profit. It's not there to be a profit maker for the government. It's there to be run for the... If it was going to be a profit maker, you leave it in the private sector. That's the commercial sector's job. That would boost... Because everything on this table's probably come in on the boat.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, all these things have come in on the boat, and they've all had the surcharge of the expensive freight.
Yeah, yeah.
We could be booming here. Our economy could be
And that's
booming.
a positive. That is a positive in itself, that the vision is there that we can be booming, and that's a nice way to finish, Stuart.
We could be booming, and my view has always been, if you make it cheap to come here, you could sell the thing that anybody coming to the UK to visit London, Edinburgh and all the rest of it, we need to say, when you come to the UK or the British Isles, one of your must-stop places is to visit, pop over and visit the Isle of Man. And that's what we should be doing. People go to the Lake District, they go to the Cotswolds.
Yes, totally, I agree with that.
Cornwall. We should be. Oh, we're going, you know, to London. It used to be to see the Queen, now the King. While we're there, the Isle of Man. Let's go there.
Let's pop
it's
over.
Only, you know, 45 quid.
Because we're still holding on to what makes us special at the moment, and that's sometimes what worries me. Is we can't get rid of all the Manx stuff, because that's what makes us Manx, and that's what makes us different and appealing.
I was in Wales a couple of weeks ago,
and that makes us appealing.
And they've got their Welsh identity, but they're still part of the Union. We should be, you know, that little special piece of Britain that you need to come and see while you're on the Isle of Man.
Definitely, amen.
And they're too busy thinking, oh, if you abolish air passenger duty, that's 5 million quid in our coffers. They're not seeing the bigger picture, and it's a problem.
Yeah, and I think, it's a problem, but the fact you've got a positive vision gives me hope. I think hopefully a lot of us have positive vision, and it sort of leads me on. I mean, we've probably covered it. However, we always do ask one final question, Stuart.
Right, go on.
The question.
Don't like the way you're looking at me here.
The question of every podcast that we finalise with, and it's a positive question. We've certainly going to create a lot of thought after this podcast for anyone who's listened to it. But the final question is, if you could improve one thing about the Isle of Man tomorrow, for example, what would it be and why? And this is our final. Take a second to think about it. This is a nice. I find this is a nice way for different people to bring in their ideas.
The one thing that will improve everything has to be the transport links on and off the island, because everything depends on that. Everything. We're not self-sufficient, whether we like it or not. We need the transport links. Now that would enable us to create. It would certainly enable the likes of your industry, farming, to flourish, because if the transport links were made, particularly as we own, as I said, the shipping company, that would make things boom, because you could be exporting, you know, the grain. We've got a surplus of grain that could have been exported into the commodity market. The creamery, we're looking at exporting liquid milk a while ago. That was all poo-pooed because of the costs. Everything depends on the transport links.
Right.
We've got to sort that out. They've got to take the hit on the air passenger duty, and they've got to take the hit on the steam packet and say, we're going to run it at a small surplus, because everything flows from that ship.
Yeah, that's the joys of being on an island.
And that would rejuvenate this place like nobody's business, because the goods would be cheaper. We'd get people coming in, but they're not going to pay £308 minimum return from Heathrow to the Isle of Man, when to go to Jersey from Heathrow it's £89 return.
Yeah,
you know,
that's scary actually.
So you look at that. Transport links, I think, is critical to everything we're doing. And there is one other. I know I'm going to have the second bite. Of the show
here we go.
We need to get rid of this nonsense of this net zero that's hammering us down.
Because you've been holding that one.
Well, I have, and we could do a whole thing on that. The reason is that it's a made-up political nonsense. we can do lots of great things for the environment, particularly through the way the countryside is managed here. I think, we've got some of the best countryside there is because of the way it's managed by the landowners and the farming and everything else. But we're bringing in rules and regulations for political targets. That's driving up the cost of energy. And as you know, everything as well as that depends on cheaper energy.
Yeah, I mean, the net zero thing is a very grey area. I can see positives and negatives. And I don't. It's a very tricky subject because no one knows where there's net zero, what this is. No one knows what it is really. So we can't comment on it until we actually reach it.
But electricity charges are key. So that all needs to be dealt with because all the manufacturing, anything that deals with heating or cooling requires power.
Yeah.
And we've got very expensive power because of some of the bad decisions we've made. So the transport links and the energy costs, we could be booming here.
Mm-hmm.
Manufacturing, we can't bring proper manufacturing here. I'm amazed the ones that are here are still here.
Yeah.
Because of the cost of export, all of that could be dealt. We could be booming here.
I think it looks positive in the future that hopefully there is that change coming, June, and that's a nice way to wrap it up in the sense of there is positivity coming if people want to make a change.
We can still turn it round.
I think we can still turn it round 100%.
But
we're not there yet.
We're not far off the point of no return if we're not careful.
Mm-hmm.
But we need to turn it round.
And it's important that message is put out, and that's why we run a podcast like this. So thank you very much for coming on here, June.
Yeah, thank you.
It's been a pleasure for you. I think
I've not bored your viewers to death.
And you haven't bored me because there needs to be a certain freedom of what people can say and a place for people to talk at. And I'm happily here to listen and to ask questions where is needed. So thank you very much for coming on.
Do you think I need to go into hiding now?
You reckon?
I don't know.
You reckon? I'm not too sure.
I'll leave with a thing over my head.
Bag over your head. Let's go. Get out of here. But no,
Well,
thank you very much.
I've enjoyed it.
Thank you very much, June. See you soon, everybody.